So for 11 a.m. I'm closing it tonight. Yeah, but
Guys, do we need this now?
We're gonna learn about ego. I have to step out.
And then again, it's just being on.
I'm gonna be gone.
Like,
Yeah.
People are gonna be there.
Yeah. People are gonna be there. You can always skew numbers. So you can just take it to Yeah, Lisa recommended me to. I'm excited. It's my first. And this is good. Way to get into it. I'm gonna get that low thing. Just casual, like kind of like spot. Pull up. Yeah, we're both. I'll do Oh yeah, it's just yeah. He's a regional reporter.
11.
Thank you.
Hey
If
guys.
I had that sharp in it, one side.
Should we turn on the sound or no? Katie, can you turn my volume a little bit? Can you turn my volume a little bit? All right. Let's do 1, 2. Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? I'm gonna go say hi to Senator Velis so that we can start the meeting. There we go.
That's literally what I said immediately.
I am.
Crazy.
You didn't let me joke.
Oh, you're mad? You're funny. I'm not really stressed. Just
I wouldn't say the SGA president and athlete. Adam, you're not.
Is this live?
It is guys.
Fuck. That was not funny.
It was hilarious.
That was really unfunny.
You stopped it. No, we said first was hilarious.
Oh, yes, and Sarah.
But you said first the official SGA record is hilarious.
I call to order the September, April 23rd meeting of the Student Government Association. We are live streamed and recorded in the center of the room. Please review your agenda. Adam's roll call.
Caitlin Egan.
Here.
Timothy Allen. Isabel Patel.
Here.
Scott Dwan. Nick Plumbo. Anderson Delaire. Gage Glanville. Here. Crystal Mills. Naomi Brito.
Here.
Travis McLaughlin. Benjamin Byrne. Kayla Leary. Abby Glasheen.
Here.
Desiree Brown.
Here.
David Mraz.
Here.
Haley Kane.
Here.
Nicole Moniz. James McDonald.
Here.
Nick Black. Savannah Souza.
Here.
Gavin Fazia.
Here.
Jacob Constant.
Here.
Austin Morgan.
Here.
Brandon Rita.
Here.
Maggie Roberts.
Here.
Liam Connor.
Here.
Angela Hayes. Chris Pira.
Here.
Are there any corrections to the minutes from April 2nd? Seeing none, minutes are approved.
And now for your president's report, Nicholas Smith.
Hello. There we go. Hi, everyone. First of all, you look lovely. You're all dressed up very nice. We have two very, very special guests tonight. First and foremost, I have the utmost honor of inviting our first speaker, Westfield State University President, Dr. Linda Thompson.
was a very lively group. And they all got dressed up for you. Yeah. No, thank you, Nick, for inviting me here this afternoon. And, I just wanted to come and say congratulations to all of the graduates. And a few of you are going to stay around, I understand, so I'll get a chance to see you. But, one of the things I just hope you realize is you had an opportunity to learn and work with some of the most knowledgeable faculty who graduated from top-level universities and could have gone anywhere, but they chose to come here at Westfield State University. And they came here because they wanted to work with young people just like you. So thank you for choosing to come here and spend a little time with us on our campus. And I know for those of you who are graduating, you're going to go on and do wonderful things. And just remember us when you graduate. Remember, this year we turn 185 years old. And we have been celebrating since January. For those of you who've gone to some of the events that we've been sponsoring on our campus, I hope you've enjoyed the time as we celebrate our history and our current and our future, because you are the future that will make us great for another 185 years. And for those of you who are graduating, we have a wonderful graduation speaker, and the community has been so welcoming of our speaker, and then some of our faculty are already organizing courses for our students to be able to do a semester or a year abroad. So this year, as part of your graduation, we're hosting a reception for President Mary Lou McDonald, who I hope is going to be our next Prime Minister in Ireland. She'll welcome us. We'll go and see her, Senator. She's interested in getting to learn a lot about what we are doing here on our campus, and some of our faculty are also interested. I have really enjoyed working with you this year, look forward to working with you again next year. And one of the things that I have treasured is learning from Nick and Dan the issues that are important to you this year. Because we have lunch every month, and when we have our lunch, they share with me. So for the incoming, I know you're going to continue that legacy of them meeting with me, right?
Of course.
We're going to have lunch. You're going to share with me the issues that are important to the students on this campus, and we'll solve them together. So it will be you, me, and Dan again for a year. But, I'm just so grateful that our senator is so interested in our campus. Last week, I had the pleasure of listening to him. I had a front row seat of him talking about the new president of Holyoke Community College. I said, God, I've never come to my investiture. I wonder what would he have said. But you did such a wonderful job sharing your first impression of this person who's the new president. And I just want to say I really enjoyed hearing you, and I was proud of the words that you used to salute him to coming to our community and the work that he's going to do on behalf of the students at Holyoke Community College. We have a relationship with Holyoke Community College. We're doing some work for a transfer model. Their students can register, to enroll there, and they can automatically be enrolled on it. So we're trying to, smooth the pathway for people to go. But I'm not going to take up much time because I know you want to hear from the other speaker. And I just want to say I am proud of each and every one of you, and proud to work with you over the year. And for those of you who are coming back, I look forward to working with you. So thank you. Thank you, Nick.
you know how much we appreciate you, and your ability to work with students and come down to student government is something that I've always commemorated, especially in my role. So I thank you for taking time and carving it out to see us, and I will return in my master's program, and hopefully we'll touch base again. Woo. I say hopefully. We will, don't worry. I hope I can use the term friends, Dr. Thompson, because at this point, okay. Aw, that's so heartwarming. Okay. Tonight, we have a very special guest. I did write a bio about you. Mr. Senator John Velis. John Velis is a member of the Massachusetts Senate, representing the 2nd Hampden, Hampshire district. Senator Velis was raised in Westfield, Mass, and has been a senator since 2020. However, before entering politics, he served as a captain in the U.S. Army Reserves. His military service informs much of his political work, particularly advocating for veterans, rights, and supports and services. Velis' political career began in Massachusetts in the House of Representatives, where he represented the 4th Hampden district. In 2020, he won a special election and filled the vacant Massachusetts State Senate seat. Since then, Velis has made a significant mark in the Senate, focusing on critical issues such as healthcare, education, economic development, and infrastructure improvement. Throughout his career, Velis has been recognized for his dedication to public service and his commitment to improving the lives of his constituencies. He continues to be an active voice in Massachusetts politics, advocating for policies that promote fairness, equity, and opportunity for all. Senator Velis is also a member who has been joining SGA here to speak for quite a bit of time now. So without further ado, please help me introduce Senator John Velis.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. How's everybody doing? Good. So I have to, President, if I was speaking at your, and I can never investiture, I would, or any event for that matter, it would take me a very long time to get through how fond I am of you. There's not many people I say this about, but every time I see you, immediately I smile and I gravitate towards you. You are a good human being, and I'm going to leave it at that. But when I do have an opportunity to speak about you, at some point that day will come. It's going to be a long speech. So, everyone, great to be here. I love coming here. I have to tell you something. I really love coming and speaking at student government here in Westfield State because my day job, very candidly speaking, I deal, and today was a particular day where this happened, I talk to crazy folks all day long. And I am in the throes of, I guess by way of background, I am chair of 2 committees right now. And most senators have 1 committee that they're the chair, but I have chair of 2 committees. And I'm proud of that. It showed that the Senate president had a lot of trust in me, does have a lot of trust in me. There are 2 critical issues. One of them, mental health, substance use, and recovery, I would argue is, I would say behavioral health in general, I would argue is the biggest issue in this Commonwealth and beyond that not enough people are talking about. And we are in the process right now, I am in the process with collaboration with colleagues, as well as my friends in the House, in drafting a substance use disorder bill. We can talk about that. I'm also in the process of drafting what's known an omnibus bill, which is an omnibus bill as opposed to a regular bill, is a combination of bills all packed into one in the veterans space. So I'm the chair of the Veterans and Federal Affairs Committee. And a lot of people tend to focus on the first part of that, the veterans part of it, without realizing that there's another part, federal affairs. So all of our interactions with the federal government, in many respects, our federal colleagues, members of Congress and the U.S. Senate, this committee runs point on. So there's a lot going on. And in that space, Governor Healy has filed a bill known as the HERO Act. And we are in the process of dissecting that bill, cutting some of it out, adding some to it, and making the bill what we consider to be a better bill to continue to allow Massachusetts to be what I would consider to be the best place to be a veteran in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And we can talk about any of that. And I also want to be very clear, I really want any of you who have a question on any matter to kind of just raise your hand, interrupt me, anything you want to talk about, because right now I am involved at a very intimate level on every controversial, complex, nuanced issue that we have in this Commonwealth. Those are the two committees that I chair, but I've always prided myself on kind of working my way within the system to really be a seat at that table as we're talking about different issues. And one of them I want to spend some time talking about in a couple of minutes is the emergency assistance program right now. Because we've spent a lot of time talking about it, and it's the biggest issue out there right now because of the impact it's going to have on everything we do in Massachusetts, to include right here in this university. And I'm even going to take it a step further, and I'm going to even rewind and kind of even go 30,000 feet in the air for a second and tell you about another recent experience that I think, and I spoke about this briefly at the St. Patrick's Day, whatever we have here, for the Chamber of Commerce. So about 3.5 weeks ago, maybe a month now, I was lose track of time. So I'm in the Army still. I'm a major in the Mass National Guard, and I had the opportunity to be in Kenya for a little bit. And Kenya is a nation right now that's really, really interesting for so many different reasons that we can talk about if you want. But that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about is that the interactions that I had with the folks from Kenya, from Djibouti, from Somalia, from Sudan, from all of the nations in East Africa. And one of the things that I was so taken aback by, that I thought was so fascinating, is that I've never in my entire life been more impressed with fellow human beings. How kind they were, how gracious they were. And here, you may or may not know this, every single one of those nations that I just mentioned, with very limited and rare and unique circumstances, are what we would consider nations in the developing world as opposed to the developed world. Most folks are struggling, I guess would be the way that I would put it. There's not a lot of money. There's not a lot of things that we take for granted. And as I'm having these conversations with these people, and I'm thinking back to America and everything that we have going on here, I'm saying to myself, and I was intrigued by it, because here I am doing this really, really deep dive on all things behavioral health, mental health, and I find myself reading all these different books on what makes human beings just happy, just basic happiness. And again, folks who really have much of nothing seem so very happy to me. And I thought that was so fascinating to me. And it was just a really cool, rewarding experience. And I'm going to be spending a lot of time in Africa because I'm on an Africa team. So I guess where I'm going with that is just to say that, we have a lot of challenges here in America. There's no doubt about it. We have a lot of challenges that we confront on a daily basis, but we're pretty blessed. We're pretty fortunate. Not to minimize, not to trivialize the issues that we have. I want to be very clear. We have a lot of issues that we need to deal with, but spending a little time over there, we're blessed. All right, so what do you want to talk about? So right now, does anybody have an issue you want me to go down, or you want me to just speak?
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Senator Velis? Dan Curry?
Yeah, I'll bring one up. I know that Dr. Thompson and the Council of Presidents have had, I've probably talked to the Department of Higher Ed about capital funding for higher education institutions.
Yeah.
We have a lot of, I think, over $160 million of deferred maintenance on this campus. And unfortunately, we haven't gotten very much money from the state. I know the governor's bill has a bonds funding included from the Fair Share Amendment, but the House bill does not. I don't know if the Senate bill hasn't come out yet, but I don't know if you have any details about what the Senate might do with regard to higher education deferred maintenance spending.
It's a great question. It's funny, it's a very timely question. I was in a meeting on this just this morning about deferred maintenance at colleges and universities in Massachusetts. So everybody, when you go out into the world and you talk to people and you say you're from Massachusetts, a lot of times people will say, oh, universities, higher education, and they'll talk about all these colleges and universities, right? And many of them will be focusing on many of the schools that we have in Boston, many of the private ones, and they'll see all this money that's there invested in it. And it's, wait a second, Massachusetts is at the bottom of the list for our state colleges and universities, which makes zero sense to me. And we are millions upon millions upon millions of dollars behind in, the deferred maintenance that needs to be here. As I walked into this room, I was having a lengthy conversation with the Chair of Ways and Means, Mike Roberts in Fall River. And I realized about 30 seconds into the Dunkin' Donuts that I don't get service in here. So I'm having a conversation with myself for like 35 seconds. And I went back out, we're talking about this now. And what I anticipate is that when you're talking about the budget, what I'll tell you is this, is that as is the case in most things, and I say this not as a swipe against the House of Representatives, because keep in mind, I'm a product of the House of Representatives. The Massachusetts Senate really prioritizes things like education, like mental health, behavioral health, and higher ed is a big part of that. So I anticipate that you will see a number not reflected in what the governor did as well as what the House did. And I anticipate that it will be a lengthy debate with our friends in the House and the governor, for the very simple reason that if you look at kind of some of the things that the House prioritized, continuing, free breakfast, free breakfast for all students K through 12. And then one of the things that we are going to prioritize is free community college. And those big ticket items tend to engender a lot of debate back and forth about what our priorities are. There's a saying in government, you want to know the morals of a society, you want to know the morals of a government. Look at their budget, look at what they prioritize. And as far as I'm concerned, higher ed, deferred maintenance in the higher ed category is the conversation I think that gets talked about the least. Your administration talks about it a lot. I hear about it from them, and it's something that we need to prioritize, and I think that the Senate will. So let me go back about the, I want to talk about some of the things that are out there right now. And I want to talk about a really big issue right now that I think everybody here should be aware of, because I think it's something that is, if you're not aware of it, and I've been very vocal on this, you're going to be aware of it. So who knows the main difference, and this is kind of a trick question, but who knows the main difference between state government and federal government? Anybody want to take a guess? It has to do with funding. And this is my own creation, so I don't expect you to know, but I just really want you to just kind of weigh in. Just if you think you know, yes.
So the federal government takes in maybe predominantly your income taxes, payroll taxes. State government gets federal reimbursements plus the state taxes that they levy, like sales tax, income tax.
It's a great answer. Well, how about in the spending space? Does anybody know? Because it's gonna be underlying a lot of what we discuss about and some of the limitations we have versus the federal government. Do you want to take another shot?
The federal government has its required spending on entitlements, and then of course defense. State government, you have your amount of to spend like mass health, Medicaid, and the rest is discretionary.
What about, yes. But what about limitations on spending? Yes.
The federal government has less limitations on their spending because they have the treasury through the national bank, so their funding is not as reliant on the income that they get as much as state governments where they can run it.
Love that answer. And I'm gonna give you my, we're clapping. So you just gave a very sophisticated, nuanced answer. And here's the way I describe it. This is the way I like to do it. And a lot of times when I go into talk to kids of much younger age, I say this. Look, when state government goes into the grocery store and buys groceries, state government has to use a debit card. When the federal government goes into the grocery store and buys groceries, they can use a credit card. You get my gist there, what I'm saying? So here's the problem. Everything that we do, whether it's deferred maintenance, whether it's K through 12 Student Opportunity Act, whether it's treatment beds for the opiate crisis, whether it's building up a pipeline from younger ages up into workforce development fields that we are at some point in time going to do here because of President Thompson's leadership. Anything that costs money, we have to have the money for it. We can't swipe a credit card and say, you want to know what? We're going to pay you back in 20 years. Why is that a problem? What is going on right now in this country that I would argue is the biggest issue that should be getting talked about in political science classes. That's a big one, but that's too nuanced. That's too nuanced. You're right. You're 100% right. But what's happening right now in government involving the federal government and states? Yes, in the back. That's a big one, inflation. Yeah, but yes. But what's happening? And I'll give you a hint. You see it in areas like guns. You see it in areas like choice. You see it in areas like immigration. What's happening right now with the federal government that is making it really, really challenging for those of us in state government? Yes.
Big divide.
It-
Am I saying-
No, you are, I love the way you put that, a big divide, because I have taken to just saying that the federal government is filled with absolute clowns.
Period.
What's that?
Period.
Period. So, and here's what I mean, but hear me out, hear me out. You have all of these issues going on right now, and we're gonna use immigration right now, because immigration is the issue that right now is absolutely decimating us as a Commonwealth. Who is familiar with the emergency assistance program right now in Massachusetts? Yes, front row,
I know of it.
okay?
I don't know anything about it.
Okay, I like your candor.
Mr. Westfield, if you know.
We've had to take money out, or thinking about taking money out of transitional escrow funds as a result, because we don't have enough money to fund the system.
So back to 1875, if there's any aspiring lawyers here or law students here, you're going to hear about a case. And the case's name is the Freeman case. And what the Freeman case said is it was the first time that the United States Supreme Court took up the issue of immigration. And they came out and they said, whoa, wait a second. Because the state, and I forget what state, tried to weigh in on immigration issues. And the federal government came back and said, the US Supreme Court came back and said, you can't do that. Because what you do if you do that, and every state has different immigration policies, imagine what would happen. You just can't do it. Same logic applies to guns. Same logic applies to choice, abortion, stuff like that. If you have a hodgepodge of different legislation, the system doesn't work. That's particularly the case in the immigration front. So the federal government right now, is everybody aware of what's happening with what we are referring to as the migrant crisis in Massachusetts? Anybody want to take a whack at that? Go ahead, somebody. Don't make me start calling on people, because I will. Yes? Yeah, but what's happening? Like, tell me what that looks like. And I don't expect you to know this. I only know this because I got called up on this.
Like different hotels and school systems with migrants that are entering the country.
Yeah. Where are folks coming from?
The
I'm coming to you right next. Yes. I'm sorry, say it again?
the southern border.
Yeah, what else? Someone else went. Yes, did you have your hand up at the end?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay, yes.
I was gonna say, apart from east of the border, they're coming from like other countries like Guatemala, Nicaragua, Brazil, Colombia, Peru, a lot of countries.
Yeah, for sure.
Like South America.
What do you
in
got?
Europe.
What's that?
Wars in Europe. Like the Ukraine war.
So everybody is right. It's like, it's folks from all over. Yes, in the back.
Haiti.
What's that?
Haiti.
The big one. You're gonna be my ace right here. That's 2 now. You're 2 for 2 back there. Yeah. Oh, sorry, yes.
I know Massachusetts is like one of the only, or like the only right to shelter state.
Oh, someone wants to get controversial now. Bring it up right to shelter,
Well,
okay?
New York has a very similar policy.
New York or?
New York City.
Yeah, no, but you're spot on, right? So, all right, let's unpack this a little bit. Now, let's talk about what this means, right? So now, throughout this entire conversation, I want you to remember what I said about the debit card versus the credit card, okay? So, and remember, overarching all of this, the United States Supreme Court and Freeman, right? So, rewinding, you already know I'm in the Army. So the governor, about 6 months ago, called up the Mass National Guard. She called up 250 members of the Mass National Guard. Yours truly was one of them. So I was in the hotels throughout Massachusetts. And let me just say this, and I'm going to stop and pause for a second, again, right now. because I want to talk about the humanity of the folks that I interacted with. At that point in time, we had about 40 hotels open. And I dealt overwhelmingly with folks, like my friend in the back said, from Haiti, because the majority right now are folks coming from Haiti. And let me just say, I love people. I love talking to people. If you let me talk for too long, I will talk to myself for a long time. I love to talk. I love to find out what makes people tick. So I'm talking to these people, and I'm just having this conversation. And I had the exact same response that I had when I was in Kenya. Like, wow. And I looked at him, and I've got a 2-year-old at home. His name is Carson. He's certifiably insane. So I'm thinking at that. So my son at that point in time was, 1.5. So I'm sitting there, and I'm talking to all of these folks from Haiti, and I'm seeing these little kids running around. And all I could do in my mind was think of my son, And all I could think in my mind was, what would I do if I was in Haiti when anarchy was prevailing, where it was gang warfare? What would I would do? So let me make it real easy for you. I would grab my wife, Emily, I would grab Carson, and I'd say, let's get the hell out of here. Because it's craziness over there. But now I have to put on my other hat. Which is my state Senate hat. And now I have to put in the fact that we've got limited resources. And in 2020, the state of Massachusetts spent $150 million on the emergency assistance shelter. When I say EA, I'm using that interchangeably with the migrant crisis because people have combined them together. So EA is the way that we refer to it when we're discussing it in politics, but the media has taken to it, is referring to it as the migrant crisis. So I'm talking about the same thing. This year, we are now in excess of $1 billion on that program. So tell me what that means. Somebody take a guess what that means. What does that mean for what does that mean? What do you think that means? Yes.
We're taking money out of other areas.
So here I am getting asked to vote on this stuff. And unlike so many of my colleagues, unlike all of my colleagues, literally was the only one who was in the guard called up. I'm thinking in my mind, like, oh my God, these folks, and by the way, their journeys to get to Massachusetts, you want to talk about insane, you want to talk about resilient, absolutely insane. But I'm a state senator in Massachusetts. And I'm sitting back and I'm saying, how in God's name can we continue to fund this at these levels without what I have been saying over and over again, an exit strategy, an off-ramp. Because what's going to happen, what is already happening, cut, other programs. Other programs are getting cut. Deferred maintenance, treatment beds for the opiate crisis, homeless shelters, roads, bridges. So let me ask you, I'm going to throw it out there. I want someone to be a state rep and a state senator right now. And let me just give you what I did. So when I first took a vote on this, 6 months ago, I got up there and I said, it was a $250 million vote. I said, look, I just got back from this experience, and we all got together, Democrats and Republicans, and we voted for it. We passed it unanimously. Fast forward to 5 weeks ago. Now we're asked to fund $850 million. And I'm sitting back and I'm saying, all right, for the past 2 weeks, I've had conversations with constituents, public schools. Just go down the list of everything that state government funds in your mind. All of these things that we fund, that we have to use a debit card for. And I was being asked to vote on $850 million. So I reached out to my leadership, and we were having a caucus, which is just a group of folks like this getting together and having internal conversations. And I said, can somebody in this room tell me how this ends? Because I've got my ideas. You in the back, you said, talking about right to shelter. Does anyone want to talk about right to shelter? No, we don't want to do that right now. So I said, okay, how does this end? Tell me, at what point in time do we continue to say that we're going to sit back idly as we watch K through 12 education get cut, treatment beds get cut, higher ed get cut? How does it end? And my colleagues, who I love dearly, didn't have an answer. So myself and three other, this was and part of, and I say this a lot, but members of SGA graduate, move on. So I don't know if you've heard me say this before, but one of the main points of me in my politics and my political DNA is that I firmly believe that we need to start to elect more people that just agree with and try to do the right thing, as opposed to what a political party tells them they need to do. You know, like I always tell people, like, I firmly believe that both a Democrat and a Republican are capable of a good idea. Shocking as that may sound in today's climate, actually believe that. So what do you think I did? Maybe start calling on you folks. I already got in mind who I'm going to call
Um, I mean, I can't propose to say what you may have done, but I think that, you know, it's an interesting predicament, especially considering, like, in the realm of, like, public health and public service, you know, with, like, principles of beneficence and justice, like, you know, we're ethically obliged to, like, you know, support the well-being of all people, including those refugees and also including those who currently exist in the area. It's like, you know, taking away from these, you know, K-12, or taking away from beds, like you said, but it's also like we are ethically obliged. So I guess I can understand the predicament. I'm not sure what you would have chosen.
So I voted against it. And the reason I voted against it is because, and I want to be very clear here. You know, that predicament, I think the word you used, like, that really, really weighed on me. Because again, you know, I was kicking soccer balls around with the family in the backyard, in the hotel on the floors. But I voted against it. And it was one of the hardest votes, if not the hardest vote I've had to take. But back to, I don't mean to keep on pointing to you. So back to something that you said, right? So Massachusetts, right? Does anyone want to weigh in? Does anybody know what right to shelter is? I think you probably know right to shelter. You brought it up.
So we're ensuring that if we don't have place to go, we are continuing to work on you be taken care of here. Or you'll be sheltered here, or you'll have a place to live.
Everyone, or or do we break it down like groups? Yeah. We break it down a little bit. And I actually need to go back to something because this was part of it. Pregnant women, women with kids is the standard. Does anyone want to take a shot at, do you think we need to modify that? In light of what I said? Meaning yes. Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Because it goes back to my predicament. Part of that conversation in that caucus that we talked about was, do we repeal right to shelter? Do we preserve right to shelter? And then there was my folks like myself raising their hand and saying, I've got a novel idea. Why don't we modify right to shelter? And you're gonna kind of see that as like a recurring theme with me. I live in this like middle ground, right? To me, like the most important word in politics is compromise. So part of that discussion, when we talked about an off-ramp, an exit strategy, I wanted to have a very robust, expansive conversation about, do we need to limit this? Do we need to reduce the number of folks? I don't even want to get into the predictions because it's going to scare the administrators that are here. But if the current trends continue, it will have a decimating impact. It's already having a decimating impact on our finances. And that has very real world implications. And I'll say this, and then you're going to talk. It is absolutely mind-boggling to me that the federal government is watching us bleed the way that we are bleeding on this issue and are doing absolutely nothing to do about it. And I'm going to take it a step further. The compromise, everybody aware of the compromise that the federal government came to? You had Chris Murphy, a very progressive, liberal United States Senator from Connecticut. You had Kirsten Sinema, I'm not sure what her political party is, but like something in between, from Arizona. And then you had James Lankford, the most conservative Republican from Oklahoma. They reached a compromise. And this is where I'm going to stop on this conversation, because I have my theories about why that compromise imploded, but I'm not here to start political conversations like that. But when I got word that that deal, which make no mistake about, the biggest condemnation I have, the biggest objection I have to the federal government is I think that they are useless. And they view each other, Democrats and Republicans view each other as opposing gangs that would never, ever sit down and chat with each other. And in this instance, they did. They had a deal that did everything, sent us money, some border security things that the Republicans wanted, sent us money, which the Democrats wanted, and it didn't, we voted it down. That was my last, if I sound down on the federal government, it's still because of that vote. And we're stuck dealing with it. Yes?
I slightly forgot your question, but I think it was like how, it says mostly applies to like families, right? The current right to shelter law.
Yes.
You asked how, if that's still, that's relevant to keep it the same or to change it, right? Was that the question?
Sure.
Okay. So like the law originally also, was currently intended to help people who were going through deinstitutionalization, such as like disabled people or people with mental illness. I don't know how effective it's been at that necessarily, because these shelters are usually short term. I haven't seen a lot of them that are more than like 6 months maximum, and they're not necessarily the safest places, especially for families. A lot of them are out in like open rooms with just a bunch of beds. There's no sort of privacy or protection of people's stuff, and so many sort of vulnerable groups who don't really have a voice, especially people who just came to this country, they don't have a place to speak up when something is wrong, because they're expected to be grateful that they have a bed. And if they don't get back to the shelter in a certain amount of time, they don't have a bed anymore, and they lose it for their whole family. And the whole thing is that they're supposed to get a job, and once they get a job, they can leave, but they usually pick them up before they can get a job, because things like work authorization can take a long time. The governor said that she's trying to make that process go a lot quicker, but it's still not quick enough, and families are losing their places in shelters because the parents can't get a place to work, so they can't get a home somewhere to enroll their kids in school. So the kids are missing out on things like education, healthcare, during this sort of transition period. And then the other part of it is that there's not a lot of resources for things like mental health care and physical health care for people with disabilities who also need people.
Tons to unpack there. I agree with a lot of it. So I guess going back to my experience, right? Back to conversations that I was having with my friends who recently arrived from Haiti. And I looked at them and I said, hey, tell me if there's anything the government is not doing that we could be doing better. And I was in my Army uniform, but I was kind of wearing my other hat. Like I was thinking about the state Senate stuff. And I kid you not, without a single exception, what do you think they all raised their hand and said? Every single one of them. We want to work. We want to work. So back to that debate, and where I would really push back on what you said, but not because it's something that you said, because I just happen to know, because I'm intimately involved with this, is an amendment was filed in this last debate. And the amendment was filed by yours truly. And the amendment would have given, so anytime that you apply for a job, right? You probably don't even realize that you're doing it half the time. There are quote unquote immigration papers. Federal government, many of them. So what I did is I filed an amendment because, so just follow this logic, right? Like it's, okay, this is absolutely bleeding the Commonwealth of money. There are all these other priorities that are out there that are getting cut as we speak, because again, the debit card versus the credit card. So what is the way that we can hopefully do something about this? Make folks self-sufficient. And as it just so happens, they all want to be self-sufficient. Very candidly speaking, many of them, I got a lot of buddies of mine who I know that they have been working for a long time. I'll just leave it at that. And all of these folks really want to work. So I said, okay, I'm going to file something that's really going to get people riled up. I'm going to file a state right to work. So I filed this amendment, and it was like I filed, everybody swarmed to me. Great idea, brilliant idea. And then my phone started to ring from friends in the federal government. And it was, you can't do that. But why not? Because immigration is the province of the federal government. And from that point, the conversation really went south. And there were a lot of words that I used that I wouldn't necessarily say in front of my mom. But what I was getting at was, you know, that's really, really cute that you're telling us we can't do something and that you will sue us if we do it, when the reason we are doing it because you are not helping us. The other thing that I would say too is, if you think of right to shelter, the law that it's referred to now was passed in the 1980s, a vastly different time from today. Governor Dukakis, in his infinite wisdom in the legislature at that time, certainly did not anticipate what we are seeing right now. So I'm kind of in the school of thought that says that we need to govern based on what's in front of us and what we can predict. And if what we predict is inaccurate, we need to change and we need to modify. Any other more questions? Yes.
When you said right to work, were you mentioning, were you referencing like the policy right to work that is in states that don't require a union membership, or were you just referring to?
No. So giving that, no. Giving folks who do giving the folks that are here waiting for their asylum case the right to work here. That's a whole other part of this, and you're obviously very curious about this, but one of the biggest things that I saw, so we would get, this is how this would happen, right? So we'd be sitting around, a bunch of us in our Army uniforms, a family would come in, we'd look at their paperwork. And let me just kind of give you what's happening really at the southern border, right? So folks come in at a point of entry or not. At some point in time, they have an interaction with the federal government. At that point in time, they assert asylum. They assert some type of legal doctrine that allows them to be in America. 9 times out of 10, it's asylum. 10 times out of 10, with what I saw, it was asylum. So we'd open up their packets from the federal government, literally from the border. And we look at it and say, okay, this individual, we'll say this individual, John, he's got an asylum court case. He has asserted asylum. His next court date is in 2031. And I look at my buddies and say, they have got to be kidding us. So federal government, why don't you expedite the time that it takes for someone to have their asylum case adjudicated? Absolutely leaving us hanging. And if anybody here has a relationship with colleagues in the federal government, or you know your congressman, you know your senator, I would strongly suggest that you ask them about this, because they are absolutely killing us. And it's going to impact every single thing we do. There are certain issues that aren't meant to be state by state. This clearly is one of them. And what it's going to do to us financially is it's awful. What else?
Chris Perrin.
Hi, John.
Hello.
Thank you for coming down. Also, thank you for your service. I think that has to be mentioned. I want to talk to you a little bit about mental health as well as human rights.
Yeah.
So when you came down last year, I was at a very dark point in my life. 2 months later, my father committed suicide.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And you know, your words that you spoke kind of like made me feel better. So I want to thank you for that. But with
that your words to me right now just made me feel better.
Thank you. That's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about human rights. So with rights being stripped away across the country, taken away from like certain minority communities, what are you going to do in the Massachusetts State Senate to protect the communities such as the BIPOC community and the LGBT community to ensure that basic human rights will not be stripped away from them?
I think it's really, and thank you for your question, and thank you for what you said. And hopefully you are in a happy place in your mind right now. Because I think that's really, really important. I think it's really important that all of us in my line of work, that every vote that we take, and every policy that we enact, that we are mindful of all populations. Period, to use your quote. Period, end of story. I think that's really, really important. And you're going to see this. When I answer a question, I try to make it so I try to give you like a real world example. So back to mental health. So we have an absolute dearth. There are just not enough people going into behavioral health at all, right? Whether it's the mental health space, the substance use space, and we've got a crisis out there. One of the challenges that are out there is that mental health providers overwhelmingly look like, I was going to say myself, but not necessarily myself, because the majority of them are white and women. So when we talk about workforce development, we need to make sure that when we are doing these policies, that we are recruiting folks. And even rewinding a step further, we know based on data that folks are most inclined to want to talk to want to let their guard down, someone who looks like them, someone who could have shared life experiences. So from my standpoint, and a lot of money comes across my desk, and a lot of that money is, all right, how are we going to build up this workforce? So a big part of that for me is ensuring that the providers look like the people that they're going to help, because that really, really matters. And it's not my gut saying that really, really matters. That's my lived experience from, if you recall, I don't know, not to go down my story, but you know, my enormous struggle with alcohol and drugs. And it was folks that I could identify with that were veterans and had shared life experiences like me that helped me out. We need to emulate that across the board. And I think so every vote, everything we take, we need to look at it from the lens of what impact does this have on all communities? Not kind of like that, you know, very narrow tunnel vision thing. And that's just an example of how I am applying that in my world on a daily basis. Same thing in the, so on the Veterans and Federal Affairs piece we're doing right now. We know the data that veteran populations, based on who they are, what they look like, are treated differently post-service. I am really trying to get at the root causes of that. And I am really struggling to get an answer. And I am talking to people of all races, creeds, and religions about what is driving that. Because we've got, I am a very, very proud veteran. I am someone who's still serving. If you talk to me for not too long of a time, you're going to know I'm a veteran because I'm proud of it. That's not the case with everyone. Getting at those root causes. Something we need to continue to do.
Jacob Constant.
Hello.
Hello.
So I'm a computer science major and.
What kind of major?
Computer science.
Better not be a question about computer science.
It was going to be, the question was about AI and about how is the state government dealing with it, with the rise of AI?
Oh, you thought that was funny?
You said ask any kind of question. That
So,
was a really
so
good one.
I have this like in a, I've got two spaces, right? So there's the military side of my life that has an answer, a different answer. But that's not a state senator answer, because we are doing things in that space that AI is really, really important. I got a lot of concerns about AI. I have concerns about some of the military stuff that we are engaging in. And unfortunately, I can't talk much about that side. But what I will tell you is that this is an area that I think falls into the category where I think in many respects, the federal government should lead. Now, who knows what revenge porn is?
What?
You heard me. Who knows what revenge porn is?
You're not, don't make me do that.
What's that? One of those questions that I asked, but we just voted on it. So that's so. Anyone want to take a swipe at that? There you go.
It's.
We got a lot of respect for you, man. You
gotta have pictures or videos of talking about a past partner, and they release that video without your permission to like other people to kind of like get back at you.
Yeah. So we passed it. So we were one of only two states that just banned it. It had been criminalized in most other states. So I promise you, I'm making this relevant. So it was my bill. It was my bill and Senator Keenan's bill. And as we're walking, right, this is like 2 days before we voted on this bill. And someone reached out to us and they said, what about AI? What do you mean, what about AI? They go, you know how easy it is if you just have a photo of whomever to, because of AI, create a photo that never took place, but having a person in a compromised position, without clothes, whatever, and have that. So I think that's a perfect example. So what we did is we added to that AI. So the law as it was currently drafted would have to actually be a photo. And right now, with everything that we're seeing, AI is happening over and over again. And one of the things that I said from the floor of the Senate is try telling to a victim who has had their picture disseminated to the world and put on social media that they should feel better about themselves because it's an AI-generated photo as opposed to a real photo. No one had an answer to that, so we banned it, gone. So shouldn't say that. You will be criminally prosecuted if you do that right now. So that's an example of like what I would call a onesie and twosie. But AI, we need to regulate the landscape of it, right? Like it's not, this is uncharted territory. And I can't go on a tour out of a business. I get out a lot and talk to people. And a question I ask everybody is talk to me about the impact of AI. And there's concerns, it's like you'll have someone go on and on and on for 20 minutes about the pros, but then they'll go on for 20 minutes about how they're concerned about it, the impact it has on jobs, the impact it has on automation, the impact it has on what we just discussed. The landscape needs to be regulated. And I think what's happening is that a lot of folks, Massachusetts included, are sitting back and saying, wow, this can really get bad. And this really can get bad in any number of ways. My hope, and you've heard my low regard for the federal government right now. My hope is that they lead on this because, again, a onesie and twosie, right? If Massachusetts does this, Connecticut does that, Wyoming does that. Is that the best way to do it? I don't think so. By the way, I've got a question. And I'm definitely calling on someone who hasn't said anything right now. Did I answer your question? Raise your hand if you're on social media. Is that everyone? Is anyone not? You want to strike that. Raise your hand if you're not on social media. And if I don't want to embarrass anyone, so don't. If you're not cool, don't. If you're not cool doing that, don't do it. Does anyone want to make the case that social media is good for your mental health?
Connectedness.
Who said that? Go ahead. Elaborate.
Oh, I can let Katie elaborate. It's okay.
Katie, elaborate. Katie?
I think it can be. That just depends on how you use it. If you're using it consciously. Like I use it for like recipes and for like inspiration for writing, and like those are the things that bring me joy. So I'm really fulfilled by those, and I do those like communities.
Well, if you don't mind me asking, what platform do you do that on?
Pinterest, Instagram, things like that.
What was the first one?
Pinterest.
Did you have something? Connectivity was just kind of.
Sure. I mean, I guess it expands on Katie's thing. I think that, we all are aware, at least in our generation, that social media can have negative ramifications on mental, among other things. But I think that, one of the strengths of like social media is really or just the internet in general, is being able to connect with other people from other areas that you might not have a relationship with, and being able to keep tabs on people, even though you're not like super, like, me and Sierra are really good friends. What's it called? Me and Dan are friendly. I learned about like the things that he does when he posts on social media about like going to a hockey game with his girlfriend or whatever. And like, that's something that I wouldn't know otherwise if I didn't have social media. So it's like, oh, he's a human. He does things. It's really exciting. Well,
could be AI, right?
But yeah, connectedness is really one of the few.
All right, we got connectivity, we got recipes, and we got.
Recipes? I don't think that's what she said.
I think you said recipes, right?
Yeah, but that wasn't the point.
I get the point. The overarching point is that it exposes you to things and all that stuff. Yeah, I get it. But you definitely recipes was definitely part of it, was it not?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I I agree with Joseph. I think that there's connectedness that could be used for it, but also I agree with Katie was saying like social media like helps me a little bit when it's like wanting to get my news. I'm very involved in politics. I like knowing what's going on in the world. Don't make fun of me. I'm not a little kid, but getting little rumors for Lego sets that are coming out maybe like August or something. Getting rumors for that gets to help me. But also like it depends on the platform. I feel like LinkedIn, very good for connecting with people. I feel like it's not toxic as where Facebook and Instagram are. I just think it depends on the platform and how you use it. So.
What's your kids?
Yes.
I feel like across all social media platforms, like nothing is true. People can post whatever they want, and that's just the downfall of them all. Like even LinkedIn, that's supposed to be good for people. Like I could lie on there all day long. Nobody's gonna fact check that, you know.
Now let's talk about that. No, absolutely. And that's kind of like this, and it's changed to every industry. Like it's, and this is a whole other conversation, but one of the things that it's done, we really saw this manifest itself like in the 2000 elections, kind of post that, because it's completely changed the game. It's, you can say whatever you want, and like gone are the gatekeepers of like what's true, what's fact, what's fiction. So there's absolutely that. Well, yes.
Well, connecting to like social media, so I'm an education major, and right now I still teach in second grade, and the amount of second graders that have an iPhone is crazy. And they all have like TikToks and Instagrams and everything. And a couple weeks ago, like actually, like they all started talking. We were talking about like government and like the basics of what students should learn about that. And it turned into a whole thing about like Democrats and Republicans, and every child was like, oh, I saw it on TikTok or I saw it on Instagram. And I just feel like it's really affecting like that generation because they're so young and they don't know what to believe. And it's just, I don't know, I think they're just being exposed to things that's like important topics in the world, but there's some in the sometimes.
So we all agree that we should have a bill to ban social media. Yes.
I was also going to say, like, I'm an education major as well, and knowing that, like, you know, I'll be teaching high schoolers, maybe they'll be a little, like, they'll be digging on Instagram one day and trying to find my Instagram, or a future employer being like, let's find your Instagram. Maybe it's like, it's good to know what, I'm trying to think out of this. It's good to know, like, what your potential employee is doing, but also, like, you got to be aware of what you post on it.
Of course,
So it's not
I echo it, absolutely. You know, what you post is there in general. But let me just, absolutely. So I guess what I'm getting at is like, who thinks social media has changed their daily routine in like a bad way? Like you're on it too much. You're not sleeping as much. You might not go outside as much. You're not, that's kind of more around, great. So we almost got like a, kind of a 50-50 split a little bit. So I guess I probably should have prefaced my question. So I'm the chair of this committee, and I have really, really serious concerns about the impact that social media is having on all folks, but really kids. And I would, if anyone is interested in this conversation, there is a new book called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. And many consider him to be the foremost authority on this. And the gist of his theory, his hypothesis, if you will, is that, you know, we talk a lot, we spend a lot, and the Senate president has been really good at sending me on all these conferences with really smart people. And people spend a lot of time talking about the impact that COVID had on folks' mental health. And there's no doubt COVID has had an impact on people's mental health. It's exacerbated, but the data strongly suggests that this social media impact or this behavioral health crisis, mental health crisis, long predates COVID. And his theory is simple. And it's basically, he presents data that if you look at the time period that social media really became readily available to the population at large, that you start to see a decline in mental health. and by decline, we mean more people self-reporting that they're anxious, that they're depressed, that they have suicidal ideations. And he's got a lot of recommendations, and whether you agree with it or not, he makes a very compelling case about the fact that this is bad. But he also makes another really important, compelling case, is that when I said banning it, I was joking around, but because if you ban it, you're actually, the cat's already out of the bag, and it's really impossible in this space to put it back in the bag. But he really, so I guess what I'm at is, how often do you post on social media? But I don't care. When you post on social media, when's the last time you posted on social media, but you didn't go back to see how many responses you had to it? How many likes, how many comments? Is that something that, yeah. Is that something, is it fair to, is it safe to say that when you post something that pretty much always go back and see how many likes you have?
Sure.
Anybody know? Yes.
I don't care.
Okay.
I usually just use Facebook as a social media app, and I just use it mostly to spread like news. So there are people who disagree with me on there, like politically, they don't have to like it. And so I might get like maybe like 4 likes, even like 100 friends on Facebook, including my family and stuff. But I don't, after checking it, maybe once I haven't checked any of my posts for like months, because I don't post things personally about myself. It's more like disseminating information and things like that. And if I find something I think is interesting or needs to be shared with other people need to know about, then I'll just like press the share button. But I'm not like, instead of posting pictures of myself and like, I just accomplished something, and then look for validation in other people. Makes sense.
All right, so I'm going to share here. And thank you for that, because that, I think you're getting at the root cause. So I'm in a business that we frequently utilize social media. And I will post something, my office will post something, and I'll look, and I'll say, all right, did any of my colleagues post something like that? And who got more responses? And if the answer is that other person got more responses, it makes you feel a certain way. Can anyone identify with what I just said about posting something on social media? You're shaking your head no, you don't care.
I mean, I don't really have like a lot of friends, and when it comes to social media, I tend to keep it more of like a timeline. I mean, there's been a few times where I'll scroll through my Instagram to see what happened years past, and to see where I am now.
Yeah.
And occasionally I'll share it on Facebook because I have family on Facebook who don't have the other one, so they can see my life even though we may not be talking or they're further away. So, I mean, people post stuff. I'm not really related to like, oh, if I post something, you post something similar, which gets more.
Yeah, so the reason I'm asking all these questions again is, so I'm working hand in hand with the Attorney General's office in Massachusetts. And Massachusetts Attorney General's office is leading an investigation of all of the major social media platforms. And where we're going with this is that, are you familiar with algorithms?
Yes.
So the algorithms and the way that they're, some of the things that we've been exposed to, people being directed to suicide chat rooms, people being directed to, if someone posts something involving eating disorder, anxiety, depression, being directed to things that kind of put that right in front of them over and over again. And the whole ban conversation is kind of a sideshow for any number of reasons out, First Amendment, other concerns like that, for many of the connectivity reasons, for the meeting groups, there's a lot of people who I think social media probably helps, right? It probably gives you joy. Some of the things that you referenced about, just things that you enjoy doing, seeing other people doing. That's good, right? And it's really hard to regulate this in a way that just focuses on the bad without also getting rid of the good. So that's a challenge, but the algorithms are different. And the social media companies, you think that they're willing to give us their algorithms? No. It is absolutely insane how much they protect their algorithms. It is absolutely insane how much they don't want us to see them. And the only conclusion that I can draw is that if we see them, we are going to be shocked by what we see and how that they're targeting. Their algorithms just target people with really, really, really negative things. So who thinks, because now I'm in the real world, now I'm in stuff that we're contemplating. Who thinks it makes sense for us as lawmakers to require Snapchat, TikTok, all of the above, to give us their algorithms for purposes of, if we have them, being able to try and regulate them in such a way that we could, that makes legal sense? I'm gonna go with no first, then yes. Give me your no.
I mean, just to put it simply, it's just, I feel like the more that the federal government controls the minute details of a person's life.
It's a state government, but keep going.
Okay, the state government, or any government in general, controls the minute details of our lives, the more, obviously it may have good intentions at first, but the more that it creates the ability for issues to fester with just like power dynamics and like what that looks like, and like filtering what, or censoring what we're seeing. And it's just like, I feel like it's a huge issue if we if certain things like fall on, okay, well now the government gets to decide on this, rather than it's like, it's an autonomy piece, I feel.
I definitely agree that there are things that like people should not be seeing on social media. I think there's stuff like on certainly like in like minors, like kids should not be seeing people getting like beheaded online. And that's something that is very much prevalent today. You have kids being able to go on TikTok, push something up and fight. And that's just something.
And then for purposes of our discussion, an algorithm seeing that you're interested in that and then sending you more stuff. So I want to be clear, because I think there's thank you, but because I get where you're coming from, right? Like we constantly have these debates in government about, and this is my phrase, not yours, like civil liberties versus privacy. And that's a really good point, and I probably should have been more clear. Like what we're after is, how are you doing this? And are there roadblocks we can put up in the negative stuff, but not the positive stuff? And how we do that, that's where your major probably is going to come in at some point in time. Because I don't know if we can. But these are what we know and what the data tells us. And I think that this showing of hands substantiated that, because the one question that I did ask that was almost universal was that no one here is saying that they think social media really has like an overall, like cost benefit, good, positive impact on you. There have been folks who have brought up really important, good things that it does, no doubt. And I agree. I love that. It's enabled me to keep in contact with buddies of mine from Afghanistan, other places, that social connectivity. But the data is so very clear that it's having an impact on people. And you want to, maybe no one in this room, and I'd say that's awesome. That social comparison, that validation, that looking at what other people are doing, that saying, oh, I can't stand that son of a person. That stuff has an impact. And I don't know. I mean, we're talking about, is there a role for government to play in this? I don't know. But it's something that's changed, something is different, and it really concerns me as a lawmaker, but it concerns me as the dad of a 2-year-old. What that's going to look like at his time. Someone had something. Someone's just going to say something.
I know next, unless I want to readdress your comment, but I know I have Katie next to my list.
Hi. I've listened to you speak for 4 years now, so it's really cool to see it full circle. So thank you for coming on. I look forward to it. I worked with incarcerated individuals over the summers and worked in my job.
Whereabouts?
I worked with the parole board for 2 years and now switching over to MCI Shirley and Director of Treatment's office. So we've seen, I've spoken with a lot of incarcerated individuals about how they've really struggled with substance abuse.
and how that was really like the catalyst to their criminal behavior. And in a lot of cases, that's true. In some you can even talk, like some are like using it as an excuse, and then some it's really the root cause. And with eliminating that from the equation, they would not have committed criminal behavior. They would not have committed crime. And it's tough because often like stipulations of parole, like you can't relapse. And it's just like that revolving door. And talking with my friends in healthcare as well, they're when they see someone has had a history of substance abuse, they will not give them any drugs to treat them. They'll label them as drug seekers, and they'll say, okay, they won't treat their pain as real. And I'm sure everyone has an example of that, like through their profession as well, of like people who are struggling with substance abuse being viewed as less than, or they're not having a chance or the support that they need in order to recover. So I know this is sort of your specialty, so I wanted to hear about what you thought.
Great question. Thank you for what you do. This is a robust debate that we are having today, literally today. So there is a bill that we are. So I guess, I mean, look, again, this is obviously very personal to me on an intellectually curious standpoint, but also because of my own struggle, right? And one of the things that I would say is that, you know, a human being who was in the throes of an addiction, you know, what I would say is anything is possible. And I firmly believe, and again, the data shows that, to your point, any number of people are incarcerated, whether it be in jail or prison, because behavior is driven by their substance use. That goes without saying. I guess to bring it to the here and now. So there is a bill in front of us right now. I told you at the beginning that I am drafting an SUD bill, substance use disorder bill. Part of that bill is folks who are on probation in Massachusetts for some type of criminal offense. And if they reoffend, violate the term of their probation, but the violation is exclusively they test positive for a substance use. The bill would say that person cannot go back to prison, to jail, just because of that. So interestingly enough, I ran into the head of probation in Massachusetts the other day, and at a court thing in Chicopee, where we were talking about a program like this, and I asked him his thoughts on that bill. What he said to me is, look, for all intents and purposes, we are going down that path in Massachusetts where if someone violates just because of a urinalysis, we get them the treatment that they need, right? So the question is there a need to still pass the bill when the trajectory is in that direction anyway? I am leaning towards yes, because I don't trust that will happen in all instances when it's left to the, you know, we talk all the time about repeat violent offenders and how we don't trust judges. Well, there's some of that in this stuff too, right? So I think you'll likely see some variation of that in the product that we release. That's a very long conversation that I spend way too much time talking about, thinking about. But I am, yeah, I'll leave it at that. But I've got, thank you for what you do. And I think it's really important that, you know, the number of people, and this is kind of just me, one of the problems that we have right now is if you look at the whole continuum of care, someone who presents with a substance use disorder, and then to the end of that, the net result, let's say it's them getting better, right? There are so many steps in between. The biggest flaw that we have in Massachusetts and beyond is that the steps from that initial, hey, I have a problem, to maybe them getting to the point where they're going to live a life without substances, whatever that may be, alcohol, drugs, whatever. There are way too many steps in between. And I always tell people, you know, if someone put a gun to my head and said, John, you are the chairman of the substance use committee. What is the most important thing from your perspective when you leave? And I may have said this last year. The three hardest words for any human being to say are also the three most courageous words. I need help. So my job as the chair of this committee is that when a human being says, I need help, we as a system need to be there to help them, whatever that is. I was scared shitless. I was gonna die. I would be dead if I was out there today with the prevalence of fentanyl. Period, end of story. And a lot of good people came to help me out. So I have the coolest job in the world. I can help people with recovery. I can actually inform policy in this space. That's a big one. There's a lot to that. There's like access to medication for opioid use disorders, there's all this stuff, MAT for people that are incarcerated, and then obviously putting them in a position to succeed when they get out. And realizing that people shouldn't be judged by their worst moment.
Is there any further for Senator John Velis? Seeing none. Thank you, Senator Velis.
You're very welcome. I'll say the last thing I'll say. I talk a lot, I know. If anybody, I think it's really important. I could point to any number of policy decisions that I've made, and there have been many that are informed from these conversations. So what I would say is if anyone wants to continue the dialogue, if anybody wants to weigh in on any issues, I'm right down the road. So always feel free to reach out. I love the perspective of your generation. Hopefully I said something tonight that you found useful. Have a great night. To the seniors, congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
I do want to thank you one more time, Senator Velis. Number one, for coming down to be with us for as many years as you have, but number two, for always being vulnerable and sharing your story. I think it's super hard, and especially in your role as a political figure, to kind of be vulnerable, especially with college students, but we really appreciate it, and it helps kind of the process work a little better. So thank you for being honest with all of us, and thank you for coming down here. By any means, if there's any lingering questions or comments you have, obviously, this is our last official SGA meeting, so you can invite Senator Velis back next year. We'll invite Senator Velis back next year. You just want that, that's crazy. That was an outside thought. No, inside thought that came out. He actually went to Dunks, which is even funnier. But if you guys have any lingering questions that you want, please let me know, and I can email Senator Velis and have them answered. Besides that, I'm starting halfway down my paper. Hello, friends, for the last time officially. Dang, that's sad. I hope you all are doing well. You all look fantastic today. In my report today, there's not much going on. Oh, I forgot paper. Well, in my report today, there's not much going on for SGA. However, next week we will be having an SGA banquet, which is a celebration where we all reflect on the past year in SGA, as well as give out some awards to thank you all for your dedication to SGA and all the fantastic work you've done this year. After the banquet, we will come back here to the SGA room for an SGA tradition and get the chance to say goodbye to each other for the last time ever. I put that all in caps, bolded, and underlined. This week, there is an Accepted Students Day. So if you can attend, I'm going to make it dramatic and grab the paper. Please sign up in the paper for the last Accepted Students Day of this year. It will be the last one of this year, so please make sure to attend if you can. It's this Saturday, same as usual. And then lastly, the election results have gone out recently. I want to thank you all for your dedication to SGA and for running and supporting all of us through everything. Congratulations to those who were elected. You can now make SGA your own next year. I could get all sappy and sad this week, but I would much prefer to save it for next week. I just want to thank all of you for your fantastic work this year and your support, and I would like to congratulate our winners. To our friends who might not have won, please stay involved. You are all doing fantastic work, and I would love to see you all keep up the energy you have. If you have or want election results as a numerical value, please speak to Laura and she can get you the results you need. I know some of you have been asking for the numbers. We're not going to post them publicly. If you follow up with Laura, she can get you what you need. So That's all I have.
Any questions, comments, or concerns for Nicholas? Seeing none, thank you, Nicholas.
Board of Trustees report, Daniel Courier.
All right, good evening, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed the spring weekend. The Enrollment Management Student Affairs Committee met last Tuesday. Dr. Hearn provided the committee with exciting data on fall 2024 admissions and visitations to campus. We are currently ahead in deposits for the fall 2024 semester among first-year students despite persistent issues with the FAFSA. Visitations to campus have also skyrocketed as of late, with all of our accepted students' day events selling out. All of this would not be possible without the leadership of Dr. Hearn, the entire admissions staff, including our tour guides, and the many volunteers on accepted students today, including all of you. As mentioned by Nick earlier, we have an OWL preview day this Saturday, the last opportunity for accepted students to see our campus, and a chance for current juniors to check out our campus prior to their summer break. If you can, please volunteer and help us build the nest, one new student at a time. The committee also received a presentation by Vita student Maggie Balch and Director of Residential Life Chris Willenbrock regarding the development of a strategic plan specific to residential life. For years, residential life has been woefully understaffed and unable to think from a strategic lens, instead putting out fires and doing strictly operational tasks. Chris has now been leading the charge to develop a roadmap for the future of residential life, including the fostering of a robust residential culture. Some of the initiatives designed to fulfill this goal are already underway, including the decision to house all first-year students predominantly within Portland Hall. An expansion of P&T housing and living learning communities will help to enhance culture and bridge the divide between residential life and academic affairs. A significant amount of time was spent discussing a concept that has been adopted at many other institutions across the country as a means of fostering a stronger sense of community among first-year students. That being the requirement that all first-year students stay on campus in their first year. I want to state at the outset, as Dr. Hearn mentioned during the meeting, that this concept is only being explored, but by no means will be implemented anytime soon. For context, over 80% of our first-year students are residential, and we are the most residential state university. This Thursday, the Board of Trustees will be meeting throughout the day in the Loman Living Room, located at the front of Scanlon Hall. Our meeting schedule is as follows: 9 to 9:30 is the Governance and Nomination Committee, 9:30 to 10:30 is the Advancement, Marketing, and External Relations Committee, 10:40 to 11:40 is the Academic Affairs Committee, 12:30 to 2 is the Financial Affairs Committee, 2 to 3 is the Audit Committee, and 3:10 to 5 o'clock is the full board meeting. During the full board meeting, I'll be presenting my student trustee report. My report will highlight campus life, our recent Give a Boot campaign, 2 students who have exhibited leadership on our campus and beyond, and I'll provide an update on our common hour policy proposal. Should you have any questions, please let me know.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Daniel Courier? Seeing none. Thank you, Dan. Strategic Planning Committee, Daniel Courier.
The Strategic Planning Committee held a town hall yesterday at 12 o'clock in Denver Auditorium. Doctors Kevin Hearn and Sabine Klein, our 2 co-chairs, presented on our progress and current objectives on each of our 3 goals: campus culture, optimized value for the student, and financial stewardship. Over 50 faculty and staff members attended the town hall, provide their feedback, and ask questions. In general, concerns were raised about changing student needs, particularly those who experienced substantial learning loss during the pandemic and those with learning disabilities. We do, however, appear to be moving forward in the right direction as a strategic planning committee based on the comments presented. Please mark your calendars for our student town hall, which will be facilitated by myself and fellow student representative Alexis Pratt on Tuesday, April 30th from 3:30 to 4:30. The location will be announced via email. Please encourage your friends and your constituents to attend this town hall meeting to learn more about our strategic plan and provide feedback. As for next steps, the Strategic Planning Committee will be refining our plan through mid-May. On May 20th, the committee will be meeting with a representative from the Department of Higher Education to discuss progress. The Board of Trustees, of which I'm a member, must approve the plan before it is submitted for approval by the Board of Higher Education. Should you have any questions, please let me know.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Daniel Courier? Seeing none. Thank you, Dan. See you back over to second, buddy. Vice President Report, Student Life, Jack Whitman.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you all had a good meeting so far. Happy last full SGA meeting of the year. Student Affairs Committee met last Friday for the last time this year. We talked about ways to improve the committee for the future, how to reach different pockets on campus to get a wider student's perspective. As it is Student Affairs Committee, our primary goal is student representation. And then we did some other stuff like talking about how to pick a chair for next year, and the committee just reflected on the year and what we've done. I do have a few other things. I'm still working on shuttle tracking. I plan on meeting with Chief Cassiano in the back this week to talk about it before I pitch it to VP Hearn. The OWL statute has some good momentum, and it seems like we will hopefully be moving that and creating like a nice area for it. And then the giant letters are a work in progress. Last thing, I have some food dining updates. We have our final food service meeting this Friday. I will not be able to attend as we have interviews for the dining director that day. So I'm gonna have to find someone to be able to run that meeting. If you have anything, please email me that you brought up. And then the last thing I have is some updates from the last food service meeting. First, to-go containers are going away. This will save the university about $100,000 a year. This will go a long way towards helping the dining budget for next year. Next update's a big one. Late night is moving to the DC. Instead of being in bistro, this will allow students to have a meal swipe, and they'll be able to get pizza, pasta, grill, and a nightly special. But that doesn't mean the late night foods are going away. You will still be able to buy fried foods on the get out and pick them up in the DC. And then the last thing, well, there's two more things. They're hiring a full-time nutritionist. I don't have much information on that yet. And then the last thing is the dining hours will be changing. Dinner will now end at 8, and late night will go from 8 to 11. That's all I have.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Jacqueline and Ms. Parrow?
Point of information, I also want to add that there will be a pizza delivery service, maybe.
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly.
I don't know.
To get you excited.
Yeah, it might happen. We'll have to wait and see on that.
Katie Egan.
Did they talk anything about, since they removed the containers and are also stopping the time, I know that late night is going to go with the limited options, did they consider athletics at all?
So Monday, I spoke with Marley Berg from athletics, and she proposed the idea of meeting with exec next year to try and talk about starting a conversation between athletics and us to try and fix that side of things.
Sarah Hampden? Whoa, sorry.
Well, I just wanted to, I would just like to know a little bit more about when all these decisions were discussed and made. I don't know, I feel like we haven't heard anything about this, and it was just okay.
Yeah, they
This is
kind of
happening
just gave us the PowerPoint last food service meeting. I mean, a lot of it comes down to cost. There's a deficit of 450 grand, and all these changes are gonna kind of help offset that, so we won't have another price war for us to.
Read us, Sarah Hampton.
So they gave you a PowerPoint in the food service meeting saying that all these decisions were made? So the
Yeah.
decisions were made outside of food services?
Yeah, the green containers one we knew was gonna
Wasn't that what
happen.
we've been on?
But yeah, the late night move and the hours, yes.
I see it.
Point of information, they did discuss that if there is demand for the hours to get extended, that was said at the meeting.
Yeah, I brought that up and kept trying to push to keep those extra hours, but they're saying that students aren't utilizing that extra hour for the late night, but I feel like the 8 to 9 for dinner is something that a lot of students still use, so I'm gonna keep trying to push for that this year.
Another point of information. Can stay seated for this. So their whole a good way to use it is like a cooking metaphor for why they're taking it away is you can always add more, but you can't take away when you're cooking. So what they were going to do is with I think they said somewhere 10 or 15 people that would order between 11 and 12. By getting rid of it, those people aren't going to be able to order, so they're obviously going to have to move it earlier, and it would be a lot easier for them and a lot cheaper to add it back if there was that demand than it would be to take it away, especially since they had to cut $450,000, which I support the change.
As a point of information, the dining did ask to attend an SGA meeting and pitch it to all of us formally. based off the calendar we had this year, Senator Velis said there was not enough time to get them in. This is our last official meeting, and we knew that Senator Velis was gonna take a little bit, so they instead pitched it to Food Services, which obviously is the committee that kind of helps with the food choices, and that conversation was had, so. They did ask, it wasn't just like dropped upon. I do have a list of names to go through, so, Liam.
Yeah, we were told like 2 years ago that they were moving it from the DC to Bistro to save money, and now we're being told that they're moving it from Bistro to the DC to save money, and that doesn't really make sense to me.
So I think a lot of the reasoning comes down to staff. They're gonna have less staff in the DC because a lot of the stations are just like, you go, you grab your chicken, you grab your fries, whatever you want. So there's less people working, so it does seem like it will save some money.
Chris Parham?
I just wanted to be put on the record that I understand why the to-go containers are going away. I don't support them going away, especially having a lot of friends who get overstimulated by the DC, my neurodivergent friends, who may just want to go back to the room, eat their meal, and not have to interact with the DC. So I think that should have been put into consideration, but unfortunately it wasn't. It was just another move of them just doing what they wanted to do and us not having any say in it.
So the green containers were brought to the university during COVID through a grant, and since the money ran out from the grant and the containers kind of went away, they don't have the funds to keep the program running. There's like 20 new containers, or 24. I remember that because I made it 12.
Is it a readdress?
Readdress, yeah. I find it frustrating being on food services now for a year that, I go to every meeting and I feel like not just my voice, but, Jacob's voice is not heard, Nick's voice is not heard. I just feel like it's like, what's the point of me even being there if they're not going to listen to us?
I feel like next year, just advocate for them to come up with something substituting the green containers, because I agree with you. I feel like having to-go plates or something so you can get food and leave is something that should happen.
Point of information.
I'm Carter.
Honestly, I've never had a green container. I get my lunch from the DC every day when I bring to school. You just need to be smart about it, honestly. I'm not endorsing this officially, but if you have your own little to-go container, you bring it back to your table, no one's going to stop you from putting food in a to-go container that you brought yourself. So maybe you propose that to your friends who are then a little overstimulated by the dining hall. That's been what I've done for the whole year.
Justin Wolf?
Another point of information, just as like a different lens to look at this through. We can barely keep the cups and the silverware and the plates in the DC. And that's another just, blender and vacuum for money. So just look at it through that kind of lens when you're thinking about the to-go containers, especially since half of them come back moldy or destroyed or don't come back at all.
It's true, we did have to go to plastic cups because they were out of the Pepsi ones and they ordered me to come in quick enough.
Katie Egan?
It took me a while to get up there. Jack, this is not a reflection of you or your advocacy at all. But I wanted to put that out there. Like, these are all concerns that we're voicing, but not a reflection of you. That being said, I'm gonna add another. I just know that Adam worked hard, the Student Athletics Advisory Council, in order to extend that dining hour, which really helped athletes. And we still hear it all the time that if that extra hour from 8 to 9 is really, they're really grateful for where to get that food. We just got it and stated, and now we're taking it away again. It's like we just had a whole year-long conversation about it. So just for senators that are going to be here next year, please don't forget it. I know that there's not a lot of athletic representation in this room, so just please don't forget that. We want all of our students to be able to eat after practice, and that's been a really big issue that we've tried to work on, so just keep that in your mind.
I know Chris and Jacob can back up that I did try to fight for that during the meeting, and I kept telling them that the athletics concern was a big factor in why we want that hour cut. And I echo that, next year, whoever's on food service committee, like Justin said, they're still willing to bring it back if the demand's high enough. So I say, go to SAC and get the athletics to come and show that there is that demand. Because once they see the number of students that are upset by this, it'll be easier to bring that hour back.
Tim Courier?
I was going to ask about the peer review.
They haven't brought up, I feel like it's with Bill leaving, it's been kind of difficult, but I will have them bring it up Friday, because I want the peer review and the dining survey information, so we can bring it to Senate.
Brandon Rita?
I don't know if it was a point of information, but with the idea from Adam to bring in anything, when dining was here, they shut us down on anything that came from outside. And I know slipping it in, whatever, but we're here to try to find solutions for it. And I know some of us use it and some of us don't, but I personally use it on my busiest days. And it just saves me. And I thank each and every one of you for showing up here and doing your best. But if we just find something along the lines, I know things are expensive and they disappear, but it does mean a lot to a few students. And I know it's not the vast majority, but it would be nice just to find an internal system because they did not like anything about us bringing things in.
No, I agree. I feel like having a way to take food on the go is important. I mean, they want you there to eat, so having a way to eat if you have to go to like class is, I mean, it's the most important thing to do during the day. So I feel like I'll recommend the committee talk about it Friday, and then whoever is in my position over the summer, just, keep advocating for that, some type of solution.
Sarah Harrington?
Thank you for everything, Jack. Again, what Katie said, like, this is not all on you, it's just really some frustrations going on. Our point of Senate as sitting on other committees is to have the student voice be heard. If you feel like you're sitting on the committee and your voice isn't heard, that's a problem. You need to, saying it here isn't going to do anything. We can help you make the steps towards getting your voice heard on other committees. But with that, I move to end the debate.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns on the motion?
No.
Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, was there a comment? Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a question. Will there be any price differences? I don't know if I just didn't hear you, but for bistro or midnight?
The debate is ended, it's not.
So, I think, because I know you're here tonight just as a guest, so just to answer the question, and then I don't know if they've discussed price differences. Like Jack said, you'll still have access to the fried food in late night bistro. That answer your question? Okay, are there any other questions pertaining strictly to the motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thanks, Jack. Wow, we're ending off the year with quite a fun meeting. But great question, I really appreciate it. All right, Vice President Support Academic Life, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. The provost and I had our final meeting of academic year today at 1. I brought with me the results from Dan, Jack, and I's Common Hour survey. We agreed that this information is extremely valuable for the continuation of this proposal. He was able to give me a sheet showing what percentage of rooms are being used at each hour of the school week and the percentage of chairs being filled in each room for the past fall semester. This was surprising to see. This was surprising to look at, seeing that about 90% of rooms are being used during our proposed common time. The fear with all these rooms being filled at the same time, the overlap of classes being held at the same time, a lot of students encounter the problem where they need to take courses at the same, or courses that are only available during the same period. This is another reason why he's pushing for the professors to spread out when they're full different courses more throughout the day. He brought this sheet to the chair's meeting this past week and mentioned that he felt it was an eye-opening experience for them. He then urged me to bring the Common Hour proposal to the attention of the upcoming provost once we start meeting. In regards to the provost search, the president has been giving all recommendations and feedback regarding the candidates and will be making a decision within the next couple of weeks. Provost Caruso said that he hopes to secure by the first week in May. He's been working alongside whoever the president decides this summer to help with the transition, briefing them on what challenges they may face, upcoming program budgets and issues, and upcoming programs, budgeting issues, and more. He wants this next provost to continue pushing for the 60-40 divided classes throughout the day. As I'll be continuing this role next year, I asked what he expects from me regarding upholding the next provost's efforts. He says that the provost is always hearing from faculty and staff, so we need to help be a pipeline to students' perspective and voice. Speaking of student voices, the next town hall, which Dan mentioned, for the strategic plan is coming up and will be for students only, focusing on the area of student values. The provost himself said all of student government should be there. His words, not mine. Don't let him down. Have a good week, everyone.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Sarah Harrington? Seeing none. Thank you, Sarah Harrington.
Oh, okay, that was sad.
He's got another report, we're still going to clap that one. University Curriculum Committee, I'm assuming Sarah's still doing it.
You want to do it? Are you? Come here. You got it.
What?
University Curriculum Committee, Scott, come on.
Good afternoon, everyone. UCC, just 8 minutes. UCC reviewed and revised all the courses in the Gen Ed inclusion sections of respective social groups and culture and Gen Ed inclusion in exploring complex issues, arts and humanities. In the first section included courses in theater, philosophy, history, economics, and poli-science and sociology. And then in the second section, we reviewed courses in philosophy and English. And that is all I have.
Are there any questions, comments? Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Scott? Duwan?
No.
See? No.
Yes.
Oh. There, yeah. Let's keep things in order, guys. We're almost done. We're gonna get to dinner. Are there any actual questions, comments, or concerns for Scott? Seeing none, thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Common Hour Policy Task Force, Daniel Courier.
All right, thank you. Thank you to all those that completed our IRB approved survey earlier this month. We received 186 valid responses, 127 from students, 34 from faculty, 22 from staff, and 3 from librarians. The Common Hour Policy Task Force will be meeting tomorrow to discuss the results from the survey and determine next steps. Should you have any questions, please let me know.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Dan Courier? Sarah Harrington.
What time are we meeting tomorrow?
I will have to check the calendar. I can check, it's like 12:30.
Point of privilege, Laura Farr, she agrees. Hi, Laura.
12:30.
Yeah.
Thanks. If anyone wants to join.
We have like 3 different approvals for 12:30, that's fine. Are there any further? Seeing none, thank you, Dan. Vice President Support, Student Equity, Joseph Bonilla.
Apologies for taking a second to get up here. Good evening, everyone. I promise I won't take too long. I know you guys are all very hungry. I'm not very hungry. Anyways, I'll start it off by congratulating, there's no one in the room, I don't think, but, actually, no, I don't think. The people who assisted in celebrating Unity Week and contributing to the planning and all of the great processes that really led up to it. I went to a couple of events and they were very exciting, very fun. I was very glad to be there. And I've heard a lot of great feedback about Unity Fest. Oh, and stop, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like kind of tired. But anyways, and throughout the past couple of weeks since we have last seen each other, I think it's been 2 or 3 weeks, I've had a number of meetings. Some of the more important ones include a meeting or a legal briefing for the Advisory Council for the Advancement of Representation in Education. It was short, thank God. I was very excited about that. And there were 2 ABC meetings. It was just like wrapping up final details on proposals, really just like grammatical and syntax stuff. So not much to talk about there. And then I had a meeting with the Westfield State Alumni Association, I think last week, specifically their diversity subcommittee to just really see where they can better support students and multiple facets. If you have any questions about that, you can definitely like email me or ask me any questions after the meeting, or you can talk to Ryan. Great. So that's pretty much it. And I also just wanted to say thank you to all the seniors in the room. I've learned so much from all of you, namely Katie Egan and Nick Smith. I've definitely appreciated learning from you guys over the past 2 years. And I can go into more thank yous later on in our last meeting. And I'll end in true Joseph fashion with a quote. And it's a quote by Jane Fonda. The challenge is not to be perfect, it is to be whole. Thank you so much.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Joseph Bonilla? I will stick to my chair. Seeing none, thank you, Joseph. And Again, one more round of applause for Unity Fest. It was wonderful. And you did an amazing job. I appreciate it every single year. Vice President of Support Publicity, Elizabeth Mercer.
Hi everyone, I hope you guys are doing well as the end of semester is coming up. I know this can be a stressful time, so if any of you need anything, I'm here for you. Good luck on everyone's finals, and just a reminder, sending pictures and videos for anti-SGA, and thank you to those who have sent me them already.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Elizabeth Mercer? Seeing none, thank you, Elizabeth. Senator of the Month, Elizabeth Mercer.
Congratulations to the Senator of the Month who has gone above and beyond throughout the year. Not only does he go the extra mile commuting from home to help in any way he can, but he does it all with a smile. You exemplify what it means to be a leader, and all of SGA is proud of you. Keep up the good work, Fabian Rouse.
Congratulations, Fabian. If you can stay an extra second after the meeting for a quick photo, we can give you certificates. On that, are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Elizabeth Mercer? Seeing none, thank you. And again, congrats, Fabian, to everybody. I lost my spot. Neighborhood Advisory Board, Haley King.
So the Neighborhood Advisory Board held our annual pizza party last Tuesday, April 16th at 6 o'clock in the bistro. President Thompson, Lisa McMahon, Michael Freeman, and Tim Root were in attendance as well. For the neighbors, we had 80 people come, and a lot of people were some people who attended last year, which was really nice to see. We listened to President Thompson thank everyone for attending, and also she publicly announced to everyone that we'll be planning more events like throughout the whole semester, and she had like the whole President's Cabinet on board with that. Everyone had a great time, and then afterwards they were invited to attend the dress rehearsal of the play Rent. So many of them attended, which was nice to see. We always try to make our pizza party right around like the same time as the school play for that reason. When this group plans this event for next year, one thing to consider though is if we should move to another location, because we were pretty like tight in the bistro last week. We had to get like more chairs from the dining commons. So apparently before the pandemic, when this group ran this party, it used to be in Scanlon, so we're kind of thinking about maybe moving it back to the banquet hall like next year. And then we also have a meeting coming up soon, and we're going to continue to brainstorm more ways to interact with our neighbors.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Haley King? Seeing none, thanks, Haley. I see you getting ready, so I can't wait a second. Class of 2025, Class Council President, Mr. Wood.
What's up, fellow SGAers? The class of 2025 has been working behind the scenes diligently these last few weeks on some really exciting things for senior year, which we are proud to finally announce. Following the footsteps of Katie in the class of 2024, we wanted to bring back a former tradition of our own, but with a modernized spin to it. So with that said, we'll be having a welcome back barbecue with food, raffles, games, and a beer garden. We've been working hard on this event to try and reinstate a tradition here on campus. In addition to our welcome back barbecue, with a special shout out to the #1 supporter of the class of 2025 and their inspiration. We've been working on a lawn sign fundraiser. So like, remember the signs your school put out in front of your house when you graduated high school, or when you got accepted to Westfield? So we'll be designing and selling yard signs for parents to purchase and put in front of their house to help celebrate the accomplishments. Let the whole neighborhood know you're a class of 2025 Westfield State graduate. With all the proceeds going towards our senior week and making the effort to lower the cost so we can have the max amount of participation. Now, with this being our last report of the year, I'd like to give all the seniors a shout out for what they've accomplished for SGA in their tenure, and a special shout out to Katie for getting these traditions underway and being a valuable resource for our class council. And we look forward to carrying on the traditions you and your council started this year. Best of luck, and that's all I got.
Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Nick? Come on, Will. Come on, start clapping. That's for Katie. Seeing none, thank you, Nick. Is there any new business? Seeing none. Announcements. Dan Courier.
Per usual, the Accounting and Finance Club will be having its last event of the year. All of you can attend, it's just pizza and beverages tomorrow, so hopefully you can join us. And you don't have to be an accounting major to join, so please come tomorrow at 5 o'clock, we'll support.
Joseph Bonino.
Hi everyone, I have two short announcements. So tomorrow, the Interfaith Center in collaboration with the Pop Club is hosting a listening circle. You guys are welcome to come. It's starting at 5 p.m. until 8 p.m. And just come join and have a conversation with us. And on Thursday at 6 p.m., the executive team and I have planned a, Outstanding Westfield Leaders celebration. So if you guys are part of Registered Student Organization e-boards or know anybody who is, definitely tell them about it if they don't already know about it, and make sure that they go because it's going to be great. It's going to be super fun. We're going to have door prizes, and we look forward to seeing those of you who are going there.
Scott Delon.
On Thursday, APSU and JEDI are celebrating the API month at the DC at 6 o'clock, including any Asian food. This is fun.
Dan Courier.
I want to give a quick shout out to Adam Carpenter for leading us through all of our recent elections, and he's done a phenomenal job.
I second that, Dan. Jacob Constant.
Go along with that, and congratulations to everybody who won their elections.
Nick Smith. Thank you. I told Kelly today that I would make a quick announcement. Why am I carrying the mic? I'm sorry. I told Kelly today that I'd make a quick announcement. So April 25th, this Thursday, there is a RAD prevention and Take Back the Night assault awareness walk from 5 to 7 p.m. I will send you more information if you need it, but I told Kelly I'd spread the word. It's a very important event for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, so keep that in mind. Any further? Katie Egan.
Okay. Thank you guys for being so kind to me tonight. I'm feeling love. You are all what makes me very proud to have been a senator for the past 4 years. So keep fighting the good fight. And I really appreciate it. That being said, look out for our senior send-off. I'm taking it for Joseph. Sorry, Joseph. I took your praise. Our senior send-off. It's going to be super fun. So please help us advertise once it comes out. Coming out pretty soon. Just one more event for seniors to say goodbye. And sort of have some closure on wherever we're leading next. And thank you, Sarah, for picking up my slack. There are 24 days until commencement.
Adam Carpenter.
Paul. Caitlin Egan.
Here.
Timothy Allen. Here. Isabel Patel. Scott Dewan. Here. Nick Plumba. Here. Harrison Delaire. Gage Blandville. Here. Crystal Mills. Naomi Brito.
Here.
Travis McLaughlin. Michaela Leary. Abby Glasheen. Desiree Brown.
Here.
David Morales. Here. Haley Kane.
Here.
Isabel Moniz. Dave McDonald. Here. Nick Black. Savannah Souza.
Here.
Gavin Fazio. Here. Jacob Constant.
Here.
Austin Morgan.
Here.
Brendan Rita. Here. Maggie Roberts.
Here.
Liam Connor.
Here.
Angela Hayes. Chris Pira.
Here.
If there is no further business, I call to adjourn the April 23rd meeting of the Student Government Association until April 30th. We will be in Robert's rules for a few minutes.
Please, you know, that's fine.
Oh, I just cut my finger. Ow!